All right, class, welcome to this video on GR 2.1, Rules for Reflections. Let's go ahead and get started. So triangle XYZ is reflected across the x-axis. The result is triangle x prime, y prime, z prime as shown below. All right, so there are four rules that you have to know for reflections, okay? So four main rules, and I'll write them over here, okay? So reflections. Okay, so you have reflection across the x-axis. So if you're reflecting across the x-axis, then the transformation is negative y. So if you're reflecting across the x, the y changes. If you're reflecting across the y, then the x changes, right? So in this case, you have xy transforms to negative xy. Now, if you're translating across, y is equal to x, then what's going to happen is you're going to switch the coordinates. So you got y, x. And if you reflect across y equals negative x, you are going to switch y and x and then negate them. Okay, so put negatives. All right, those are your four main rules of reflection, and you need to know those rules. All right, so here we're reflecting across the x-axis. So we're taking this is the x-axis, and we're just flipping it over from the bottom to the top. So the arrow shows the coordinates. So let's go ahead and write down the coordinates for x prime. So x prime is negative 8, comma 4. Comma 4. And then y prime is 2, comma 3. You got z prime is negative 6, comma 7. All right, there you go. And you can see that the only thing that's changing here is the y-coordinate. You see that? And the y-coordinate is changing. It's changing to its opposite. And that makes sense because we're reflecting across the x-axis. And so notice that the y is the only thing changing. It's changing from positive to negative or negative to positive. So then in this case, the general rule for reflecting across the y-axis is going to be this one right here. Okay. All right, so this time we're reflecting across the y-axis. So let's write down what the coordinates are. So this is a prime, which is negative 2 and 5. So negative 2, 5. We got 8. B prime is negative 8, and looks like negative 8, negative 3. And finally, we got C prime, negative 2, negative 6. All right, so notice that the only thing that's changing here are the x coordinates because we're reflecting across the y. So it's going from positive to negative or negative to positive. And that makes sense. We're reflecting across the y-axis, so the x is the only coordinate that's changing. All right, so choose a general rule below that describes a reflection mapping. All right, so we know that the x changes, right? So in this case, if we were to generalize this rule, the xy goes to negative xy, right? The y is the same, but x changes. So it's got to be this one. All right, and let's do y. So now we got the DEF is reflected across the line y equals x. So now we have y equals x. So notice in this picture, so I would draw this picture in your notes, right, for each of these examples. For one for x equals, or x-axis, y-axis, y equals x. So this is the line y equals x. And so notice that this is getting reflected across that, okay? And so let's write down the coordinates for d prime. So d prime is, let's move this out of here. So d prime is negative 4 and negative 2. E prime is 1, 6. F prime is negative 9, 3. And notice what's happening here. What's happening is that these coordinates are switching, right? From 6, 1 to 1, 6, from 3, negative 9 to negative 9, 3. And so the general rule here, if we were to write it based on what we have here, is xy maps to yx. So again, these are switching, right? And there's your general rule. All right, so the answer is yx. Okay, so memorize these rules so that way you can do well on the quiz. Okay, but you have to memorize them. You can't use your notes when you do the actual quiz. When you do the ALEKS, you can potentially use your notes, but when you do the paper quiz, make sure you know these. All right, and that's going to do it for the video.